And you've been there how long now?
11 years. It's a long time.
And he was right about what they needed, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know. You have to judge that for yourself.
No, I definitely. You are one of the most influential. And as a subset to that observation, the reason Bobby was such an influence in my life was that when I used to fly back to Washington, D.C., because I actually used to work in policy, and I used to come back and work in the Capitol from Texas. And when I met Bobby and I saw the Northern Virginia Technology Council, I said, oh my gosh, that is precisely what we need in Texas. So I went back and founded the North Texas Technology Council. We became absolutely emulated exactly what they're doing, and I brought our team back here and actually walked through the process of what they were doing. So,
and she then wound up heading a wonderfully successful company named PatriotNet,
yes,
and then doing all this. And I want to tell, just before that tape goes off, I want to tell one story. And her brother, who was just a wonderful, wonderful guy named Bob DeLorenzi, and he headed this company named PatriotNet, which was a server and provider on ISP. Yeah. And it was 2000. The election was over. You had Gore versus Bush. The GSA refused to allow the candidate Bush, I guess, or the presumptive president, yes, whomever, they wouldn't give him any transition space because this thing was still floating around the court. And one day, Dick Cheney calls me up and he says, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm not going to work out of my house anymore. We're just going to go pay for our own transition space. He says, what do you got? And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, you got technology companies out there. I said, okay, how long do I have? He said, about 48 hours. So Liz Cheney and I got in a car, it's his daughter, and we went around, talked to 3 or 4 of our companies. Raul Fernandez at Proxicom had space. Another place had space that they weren't using. And then we found space actually right on Anderson Drive from Jerry Halpern of West Group. And we got this little building, and then we said, okay, what do we do now? And I called Bob and I said, do you think you could have this place up and running? And he says, how long do I have? And I said, 36 hours. And by golly, this guy got the whole Bush-Cheney privately funded transition office up and running in 36 hours.
Computers, phones, wiring, internet, everything.
And
it's pretty remarkable.
It was remarkable, and it worked. I mean, eventually, when the Supreme Court said, yes, Bush is president, GSA finally said, you have to come downtown. So they came downtown about Christmas time, but for a full month or 6 weeks, they were operating full bore, more efficiently than the government ever. They came down to GSA, and the building down here was just a mess and a disaster. It was just what the private sector could do versus what the government could do was astounding.
I got to share a quick backstory to that, because I was talking to my brother from Dallas all the time when this was going on. And at the time, MCI was the phone service provider. And because it was a new client, they would no longer let them make long-distance phone calls. Cheney's on the phone, and his service got cut off, and he wouldn't let him make long-distance phone calls. So my brother calls up to MCI, and they go, I'm sorry, but you have a new account, and we don't let new accounts make long-distance phone calls over a certain amount. And he goes, all right, I just want you to understand, right now, the United States Press Corps is outside the door, and in 45 minutes, if we do not have long distance put back on this phone because you're not letting the future President of the United States make phone calls, I'm going to walk out and have a press conference. And my brother walks by the receptionist desk within 25, 30 minutes. There's a man there. She goes, Bob, there's a man here. It's the vice president with MCI. He wants to see you. Whatever you want, we will do. But I was over watching CNN waiting for my brother to come on. But it was great. It was great. So, but my brother was that way, and so is Bobby. 2 peas in a pod. Bobby, I can't thank you enough. I know you have to scoot. Do we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions?
No, it's fine. I'm fine.
Okay. So,
I know you all have to go to work and do real jobs.
I know, but they don't want to leave you. Okay, well, we'll start here and we'll work back. Okay, Sydney?
Well, I have a comment and a question. First of all, just thanks so much because I've been positively riveted by this chick chat today. So I just think it's really interesting how, you know, in a town full of ego trippers and really smart people, overeducated, everyone always has to win. I think it's fascinating to find a person that keeps it sort of real, and you're still a person at the end of the day with a family and kids. And I just really appreciate that you can be tough as nails at the office and really smart and get stuff done, but then go home to family and be, you know, a wife and a mother and all that. I really admire that, so thank you.
Well, thank you. But you know, you can also be a very hassled person doing that. I think we all are very hassled when we try to do all that.
Yeah, so my comment is, I heard someone say just the other day, we were talking about government contracting and various other things. I'm in a male-dominated industry. I'm a commercial banker, come from financial services.
Which bank?
Bank of Georgetown, a little community bank down the street. So, and they said, you know, we go forward as women in the workforce and we have more professional degrees and I guess the feminization of various industries, that they see salaries continuing to drop. So now, for example, if you take a contracting job in Iraq, for just as an example, the salary that you would receive now, because it's a little safer, there are more women, but as women go forward and get more involved in professional occupations, they said that the salaries actually decline. And I was wondering if
The salaries decline for the women, but not for the men?
well, just all across the board. Like in medicine, for example, when more women started entering that field as doctors, the salaries have steadily declined over time.
Huh.
And I was wondering if you saw trends like that, because you've seen a lot of stuff in your various occupations, and what do you think that younger women can do to sort of pioneer our way through all of that?
It was certainly true when women first really started entering the workforce in, quote, non-traditional roles, i.e. not teachers or not nurses, that there was a salary differential. And I think there are studies that still show you there is that, but I think that is much less. What you're saying is something very different, and that is that when women come in and start dominating a profession, the salaries for that profession, whether you're male or female, goes down. I haven't experienced that, and I don't know.
That's
I mean,
an interesting study. I think it's
that's
something
a really interesting. I really haven't seen that. I mean, I know in the technology world that is certainly not true. I haven't seen a pay differential between men or women, nor have I seen those salaries gone down, though women do not dominate in any manner, shape, or form. Computer engineering, for example, is still very much of a male-dominated world. So I guess you need to take a look at doctors, as you said, which are now more women than men, and teachers who are still more women than men. I haven't seen that. I mean, I think there's been a reduction in general in medical salaries for a lot of reasons, but I don't think it necessarily has to do with the sex of the doctors.